Welcome to Simply SCAdian. This show is, so first I'm going to talk about me. Hi, I'm Zoph. This is Simply SCAdian, no title required, where we're going to talk to just regular folks in the SCA. Nobody we talk to will have a peerage, no court baronetcies, nothing like that. These are just your regular folks who love the SCA. Maybe one day they'll become a peer, maybe they won't. Not something they're striving for, something they are. Doesn't matter. This is all about the regular folk of the SCA. My co host is Lucas, who also happens to be my dependent. Take it away, Lucas.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're very excited to get started with this. Zoph reached out to me with this premise that we would have a forum to talk to people from throughout the known world that were just, making it day by day, just kind of the people in your neighborhood. And like she said, without the title, without the peerage, we want to give them the opportunity for you to meet them and realize that even without a title, there are people who are very knowledgeable and very enthusiastic and very passionate about the SCA and about what they do. And hopefully this place will be a nice place for them to come and to talk about that. One of the things that we're going to hit now, and we're going to talk to you about it a little bit later, is how to get involved. If you think you meet that criteria, knowledgeable, enthusiastic, and just an everyday Joe, um, hit us up right now on our Facebook page and let us know. But more importantly, nominate somebody. Uh, lots of people in the society, and somebody who fits our criteria. It would be great if you could talk to so and so about the music they're working on, or the storytelling that they're doing, or the fighting that they're doing, or any of the other things, the service, and get them involved. Just nominate them, and we'll have a nice kind of coffee talk with them. I am Lucas Abernathy. I am not new to the SCA, but I am very new to being official in the SCA. So I am happy to kind of be here as a representative of those people who may not know what some of the terms mean, what some of the what some of the protocol is, and can ask from a place of ignorance and learn. And hopefully there are some new people who are going to turn in, and they're going to learn right along with me. So I guess with no more ado, I'm going to kick it back to Zoph, and we're going to welcome our first guest.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm trying to do like double duty here right now, which is really kind of frustrating. So bear with us as I figure out with spotlights and everything else. I'm going to spotlight myself for you. So today's guest is a really, 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 really awesome dude named Kari. And there we go. Okay, now I can tell you all about Kari. Kari Garanhirsson is the son of East Kingdom's Sir Garanhir of Ness. Kari has actively participated in the SCA as an adult for the past 14 years. Kari is most notably a Viking Age historian and reenactor. He's an accomplished armored fighter, a cut and thrust enthusiast, and a renowned SCAdian bard, and a schnazzy dresser. Thank you. Well, we said we were going to say that.
We're definitely going to say that.
So, welcome, Kari.
Hello. Hi. Am I on? Can you see me? Do I exist?
Yeah.
You do exist, yes.
Hello, people in there. There's like a world. If I press this, okay, I'm not going to do that. Hi. Apparently I'm a snazzy dresser. I guess I should have known that coming. I put on, all right, so real talk. I put on my shoes and my socks. I have like these knit no-bound socks, and it was very important to me to have worn them today. And I think that's what got the dresser comment, because I just really want
No, you always are a schnazzy dresser. You always look incredible. When I was looking for pictures, I was stalking on your Facebook page to find good pictures of you. And I really only went with one that didn't have too modern of a background, and that you weren't facing too much to the left or the right. But other than that, every picture was you looking impeccable in your Norse garb.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, as a man on the outside who kind of came, Johnny come lately to the SCA, that I love the clothes. You know what I mean? And that, so I talk about snads. I really appreciate it. I've seen some people wear some outfits that I'm in awe of, and then to find out about like the craftsmanship behind it and what they did with it, that was super fascinating to me as a noob early on. So yes, that's why, I'm wearing jeans. You know what I mean? Like below the screen, Matt.
Yeah,
But
I'm in
you are
sweats,
you are
but you've
doing
got
it.
your
Yeah, you are
all the
doing it, and
way.
I appreciate that.
I did. I've got my belts on. Hold on. I got all my snazzy, blingy stuff.
Nice.
I guys back home who are watching this, the clothing. You get a chance to wear cool stuff.
Right. See, that's for me. So when I first drove, wait, we're not talking about me. We're talking about you. So let's first of all, linen. That's all I'm going to say. So, linen. You go to one Penzic and you discover the joy of
Oh,
linen and wool.
oh
Like,
yeah,
dude.
oh yeah.
All right. So Kari, how did you find the SCA?
So my dad was an Eastern Knight. Well, he's in Calontier now, but he was knighted in the East in '74. I was not raised with him. I didn't know him until I was an adult. So, when I was a kid, all I knew about my father was, by the way, totally, it was just one of those, it was the 70s, man. It just, stuff happened. I knew that my dad was a knight. I had no context to what that was supposed to mean. Just my father was a knight, and I knew his name. And so as I grew up, I'm like, oh, my dad's a knight. That's cool. And my mom and her friends were all kind of involved in the local Cleveland, Ohio area SCA group. We kind of splintered off like in the early 80s into kind of who became the local barony of the Cleflands and who became like the hippie neo-pagan event people. And so I always was around like the hippie neo-pagan scene. Again, not knowing tons about my dad. I had heard about the SCA because people had been around it. I remember going to this like a new age festival with my mom when I must have been an early teenager. And there was some guy there who's like, yeah, man, I'm a squire. I'm going to go to Penzic. I'm going to fight. I'm a fighter. It's like, oh, you look like a nerd. It's like, I'm a fighter, man. I'm a squire. Shut up. I'm not a nerd. All right. I mean, I'm looking around to see a nerds over here and you look like a nerd. And he's like, dude. Maybe I didn't actually say that to him. He was bigger and older than me. Maybe I was just scared. He did look like a nerd though. But I got my kind of brain going, and I asked my mom a little bit more about my father and who he was and what his deal was, and she explained he's a knight in the SCA. Again, not really a lot of context. She explained it more to me that it was like a medieval club. I guess I actually went to Penzic when I was really young. I went when I was like 4 or so, and there's some pictures of it, but I don't unfortunately have any memory of it. So it would have been like, I don't know, Penzic 10, 12, somewhere around there, 84. And what happened? So I went at 16. There's a point to this eventually. At 16, I decided that I wanted to check this place out. And my mom's friends told me, wow, the SCA is filled with really pretentious people. And they're going to look at your clothing and they're going to look at the threads on it and say, wow, yeah, it's the wrong kind of thread. I'm like, oh, really? So these people are going to be like really stingy and something? She's like, yeah, they're probably going to be really stodgy. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went to the 16-year-old kid and I showed up at a local group and there were people in armor. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And they were fighting and I'm like, this is great. And I stood around and I was just some, shy 16-year-old kid. And somebody's like, hey, how you doing? I was like, I'm cool. Like, okay, well, if you have any questions, come let us know. Like, I'm probably not going to do that because I'm like a little kid. Anyway, so that was probably my opportunity to join the SCA then. And maybe I didn't talk to the right people at the time. Nobody was super, hey, kid, you're here. You clearly showed up at this place for a reason. So nobody really connected with me at that point. It was half my fault because I didn't know what to say to anybody. And I was, some kid. So I went out my merry way. And I heard there were some guys at that event, though. They were called Two Chucks. They were fighting. Those guys are cool. One of those Two Chuck guys talked. So I thought, oh, yeah, maybe I should join that Two Chuck group. Those guys sound sweet. I didn't do that, obviously. Although some of those guys are pretty sweet. And years went by. And I got more into like martial arts and swords and started thinking this stuff was really cool. And at this point, I had met my father and he was a knight, and found out my older brother had fought for a lot of years, and thought to myself, still seems like it's filled with nerds. Little did I know, I was a Dungeons and Dragons playing nerd myself. I should have been more aware of that. And I liked, I kind of lived in this bohemian neighborhood where everybody was very communal and walked around. Everybody knew each other. I was nervous about a big group. Everybody was interconnected. So eventually my dad would be like, come join the SCA. Are you going to join the SCA? Finally, it's 2007. I just turned 27. I get this phone call from my father. And he goes, well, I'd like to get to know my son before I die. You are coming to Pensick. He lived out in New York. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll come. Check it out. So I figured, well, if I'm going to go, let's do it all the way. Let's try this fighting thing. We'll try this armored thing. But at this point, I had really gotten into Norse mythology, Viking Age religion, and the lore kind of based on that. I had always been exposed to like New Age stuff and neo-paganism. So like the Viking Age paganism was really interesting to me. And I thought, I could do this. I had just read a book called Njál's Saga, which is a end of the 10th, beginning of the 11th century saga, but very Hatfields and McCoy's story that happened in Iceland about two kind of warring families. And there was a character in there who I loved, and his name was Kari Garanhirsson. And long story short, all of the family that you follow, Njál's family, gets burned alive, which isn't spoiling the story. I mean, it's the story of burnt Njál. And the only one who survives the burning is Kari. And Kari goes and he avenges and kills all of the burners. And the forebearer of the other family, who was named Snorri the Wise, who was a good man, said near the end of the book, he said, if there's one man I most admire in all of Iceland, it's Kari Garanhirsson. And Kari would end up marrying Snorri's daughter, and they'd make a new family. So from the two broken families, I made another one. And I thought, that's a guy who inspires me, this Kari. And so I went to join the SCA, and they're like, hey, you need a name. I could be Kari. That Kari guy was pretty cool. I would like to aspire to be like him. So I joined, and I had one of my mom's super hippie, like druid friends, was like, hey, Alex, I got a bunch of old armor that might fit you. And he gave me all this really, in hindsight, like really awesome, like plate armor. I'm like, wow, that's a really like nice breastplate and nice arm harnesses, beautiful articulation. So I show up at my first Cleflin's meeting, and I had looked up the website, right? So it was the age of internet now. I'm trying to think of time websites existed. And it said there was a Chatelaine, the newcomer greeter. And I looked up the guy, and Jared, if you're watching, excuse me for the story. And it says, Jared of Coventry. I'm from Coventry. That's the bohemian neighborhood I grew up on. This must be fated. So I show up and I go, I'm looking for Jared of Coventry. We'll go get him for you. And so this guy comes up to me and he's like, hi, can I help you? I'm like, yes. Are you Jared of Coventry? He goes, yeah. I said, great. I am here to join the SCA. Tell me about joining the SCA, for I am here to do this thing. Well, over there are fighters, and over there is fencing, and then they go make stuff in the back. Okay, well, let me know if you have more questions. He's gone. And in 15 years, I don't think Jared and I have ever talked I'm sorry. So they, all right. Nice guy, shy guy. If you're watching, Jared, I liked you. I've always liked you. We should talk more. In fact, perhaps coffee. And I looked at all the fighters and I looked at all the people. And this is a lot of people. This is a lot of people who seem to know each other really well. This is obviously more than just like a hangout. This is a tight-knit club. And I got a little nervous and thought to myself, I don't know about this. So I found a guy who came and talked to me. He said his name was Callum. Now, he had really cool armor, beautiful, like Visby style coat of plates and this like immaculate helm. And he looked amazing, like a knight out of the storybooks. And he walks up and he says, "Oh, hi, how are you? My name's Callum. Are you interested in fighting?" I said, "Well, I am. I have some armor here in this bag that I dragged in here." He's like, "Oh, well, we could talk to you about that." And we chatted and he showed me the fighting and I watched a little bit. I said, "Well, these are not nerds. I mean, they might be nerds, but these are nerds who are like grown men and they are hitting each other with baseball bats. This looks cool, scary, but cool." Interesting, the perception difference when I was 16. And then it's always interesting when you're recording yourself and you realize how many like and thems and ands you say before you start sentences. This other fellow walks up to me and he's got this epic long dark hair, also wearing this super immaculate armor, and he says in a super like Tolkien-like charismatic voice, which I will try to recreate for you. "Hello, I am Laurelin. I am a great duke, and I will talk to you about fighting. You are interested in fighting, I heard." "Yeah, this is pretty cool." He said, "Yes, it is wonderful. And we strive to be knightly in our virtue." And I don't know what else he said, but it was so like, wow, knights and armor. And like, he just went on this magical tangent about chivalry and honor and knights and the virtues and becoming like the person you could dream you could be. And that people here aren't playing a game. They're not, I mean, they are playing a game, but they're not like role playing. Like, it's not LARP. They're not pretending to be Callum or pretending to be Laurelin, but they're names that they've adopted to personify the person of themselves that they would like to be in a way that they can live that out. And I believe that the phrase that he said that stuck with me was, we are not 14th century knights. We're 21st century knights doing 14th century things. And I thought that was really cool. And off chance, I asked, "Hey, do you happen to know my dad, Garanhirsson? He's a knight from the East." "Oh, yes, I know Garanhirsson," because the chances of that were, unbelievably small. But yeah, it was the 70s. Everybody knew each other. So I decided this was kind of cool. I'd stick around. I'm going to take up all of our time just on this, aren't I?
Nope, because you're done. Next question.
Well, you know what it is as I sat there and listened, I'm writing down other things about that story that kind of I love the nerd thing, because I feel like that's something that like everybody in the SCA, regardless of their involvement, has had that moment where they've either looked at it or been looked at and as a nerd, whatever that means, and then realized that, well, hell yeah, I am. Do you know what I mean? Like one of my favorite phrases is, "Well, I don't fight dragons any more than you really play football, playing fantasy football." You know what I mean? Like, it's all that. If you're an expert on something, if you think about it all the time and you know everything and you collect the stuff and you do the thing, that's your nerddom. You know what I mean? And especially now, we've really kind of, the nerd culture is everybody's culture now. Geek culture is like it's in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But you talked about like coming in, and this is a little bit of jumping ahead to another question, but like, how could we, or how could the group be more welcoming? You know what I mean? Like you came into that first one and then you didn't really reach out to anybody, but everybody was just kind of like, oh, there's a new guy here and whatnot. Because I have to tell you, I have some friends that I dearly love that introduced me to the SCA, but I still really couldn't get any traction on the like, when is a general meeting or when is it this? Like I know when the fighters practice is, but I don't really do that. And I know where this is, but I don't really do. I like the culture. Where can I go and get involved? So how would you make it? I mean, in a perfect world, you were in charge. You could make it more welcoming. What would have been better with that?
So it's actually I have some specific thoughts on it. I was our Berenice chatelaine for a number of years, and I am an expert in recruiting people into things. So I brought a lot of people into the SCA, probably around 24 or more. Many of whom stuck around for a couple of years, and a couple of them became, or at this point, 10-year plus. And the thing that I realized early on is that because the SCA developed such a community, it's not just like a club where you can come and join a game and get a role. Like you can't just come in and be like, "Hey, I'm sitting down at the D&D table. I got my fighter. Can I play him?" And a lot of us are nerds, so there's a lot of shy people, and you get used to your group of people. And what I noticed, at least in our area, was they'd watch. They wanted to see how often a person came, and maybe if they showed up for like 5 or 6 months, and we'll start teaching them how to fight, like to see if they're going to stick. But like, that's not how that works. Like you don't wait and let somebody just come around awkwardly for months before you involve them, because now they've been around enough. So what I did was, anytime I met somebody new, and keep in mind at the meetings, and it just happened that for us, our Berry meeting was also a fighting and fencing practice. So if somebody showed up, and this was true even when I wasn't a chatelaine, I would make a point to walk over and stop whatever it is I was doing, right? And I'd walk over and go, "Hey man, how you guys doing? Nice to meet you. Welcome. See anything cool you like?" And just chat with them a little bit, and get a feel for whether they have just kind of randomly shown up or what their interest was. A lot of times, if they're there, they came for a reason. At which point I would start gauging their interest. And this is, again, just 101. You meet a person, you engage them. "Hey, what are you here for? What brought you? Did you hear about it? Did you check out the website? Wow, what are you into? What kind of stuff do you like to do?" And I would get to know the different people in my group and what kind of personalities we had and what kind of activities we had. So if somebody said, I heard about this, I'm into like the medieval thing, I go to the medieval fair, I really like the fair, I might say, "Oh, wow, that's so cool. We have a bunch of cool people you can come meet. What do you like to do at the fair?" "Oh, I love the parties. Wow, we have some great events you might want to come and check out. Here's this website. You can see when events are and go to them." If somebody said, "Well, I'm really into like medieval costuming," I knew where to guide them and who to introduce them to. Like you kind of know where the charisma is. If somebody came in and was interested in fighting, especially a young person, I might guide them to the man who inspired me so much, to that Laurel, and say, hey, can you talk to them a little bit about knights? And he would just say some magic stuff. Wow. The hard part is, I think we get so into our own game, it's hard to step outside and go, "Oh, wait, that guy's name is John. Like, John doesn't care about Baron Lord Bjorn. John cares about John, who's interested in some medieval stuff." So when I do it, I go, "Hey, how you doing? What's your name?" "John, my name's Alex. Nice to meet you." I go by Kari here. But, "Hey, Alex, nice to meet you. What do you do? Where are you from?" Instead of going, "Well, yes, I'm Lord such and such." No, where are you from? What do you do? You work? Play any sports? Do you have any background, anything? "Oh, well, I got into this. I did some karate and some stuff, and I thought this was pretty cool." And then hook them with reality, and then show them where that merges. But yeah, this is a really great group. People hang out here every week. You get to know everybody. It's like an awesome medieval club you can come hang out at. You want to do fighting? When you talk about fighting stuff, And then the thing where I think the SCA does remarkably well is once you have figured out where someone's interest gauge point is, like why are they here? What brought them to this point? Let me talk to you about how cool that is. You want to go to sewing? You want to sew? We got a sewing group. They meet on Tuesdays. Let me introduce you. In fact, you know what? You want to go? I'll go next Tuesday and we'll hang out and we'll make some clothes. You want to fight? Hey, I'll tell you what. I got some armor. I got it in the truck. You want to put it on? See how it feels? Put a shield on, maybe like bang around, and just really give people a chance on that first time to get wowed, you know? And that's it. And usually once you put a helmet on somebody for the first time, they get put on somebody's armor. They're like, oh, this is so cool. Or, you know, I have a very good friend who's now 10 years in herself. You know, we met on at a coffee shop and I was like, hey, do you want to go to a sewing group? And we went to the sewing group and she's become an expert seamstress in her own right and now makes Viking clothing professionally. So you never know how far people are going to go with it. I don't know. I've maybe answered the question too much.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I wish everybody's experience could be like that. You know what I mean? I just know that somebody from my barony used me as an example once because they were having a discussion about how to bring people in more and how to make it more welcoming. And I was at a Ren fair where I was working at the Ren fair. That's my way in. I'm a Ren fair actor, and then started coming to these things. And I was dressed as Robin Hood. The costumer made this. I still think it's kick-ass Robin Hood costume. I wear it everywhere and whatnot. And I go up and I show my friend who's there with the local SCA group. I'm like, dude, check it out. But no patrons were in yet. So no character, no nothing. And he's like, that's amazing. It really looks great. It really looks cool. And somebody else from that group walked by and tore it apart for everything it wasn't. And he crestfallen. He apologized. And then apparently had a conversation with that person later and was like, listen, first of all, he's not in the group. He's here to look cool because he's an actor in a thing, not to, whatnot. And he used that as an example. He says, if that was that kid's first experience, if that was that guy's first whatever, he's not coming back. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I have to say it's weird because as many great people as I've met, I have, equally weird experiences. I was telling Zoph once that I'm not a heavy fighter, but I was doing commercials for the SCA. A friend of mine was going to libraries, going to kids in the summer, and I was working, and she was having us do demonstrations. And for the most part, I was just there to help her because I knew about it. But I did some heavy fighting with a couple guys. And one guy was great. He was like, all right, we're going to bang back and forth a little bit. You kill me, I'll kill you. We'll talk about, honorable death, and we'll talk about And then the other guy, I said, oh, well, we did this. Me and so-and-so did this. And he was like, all right, kind of gruffly blew me off. And somebody said, lay on. And I was looking out of the side of that helmet. He hit me so hard and so fast. He just turned the whole pig face bassinet one way. And I thought, oh my God, he broke my friend's helmet because it wasn't mine. I was borrowing the stuff. And I thought, holy crap, what happened? And I shook my head and the helmet fell back into place. And I had this moment of clarity, like, good, I didn't break it. And then this guy, who I've never talked to since or whatnot, leaned in close and went, now you die. Like, we're not going for crown. We're showing kids how to play the, do the thing. And just, you know what I mean? And then I go and then I meet these great people here. And then I have another. So it's just, I dig your vibe on just how to bring people in. I think that's really cool.
So can I actually interject on that? Because I had a thought. One of the problems I have found is that the really cool people in the SCA are busy because they're doing cool stuff. And the people who are available on the periphery to just wander around having nothing to do, a lot of times are the people who are already really awkward or don't have anything going on. People, so, because our club draws so much varied people and so many backgrounds, really, if you have in your local group a best foot forward, a person who who's just good at talking to people, just send them, just say, John, best job, you go talk, and just do it. And you got to, because unfortunately, nerd culture, geek culture, also comes with a lot of pretentious behavior. If you remember, the early warning I got was just that. Someone's going to come and tell you your clothing is bad. Like, I am deeply invested in Viking Age costuming at this point. I reenact on a professional level. I travel the world. I worked at museums, like, in stuff that SCA good enough is not nearly good enough. Even the people who are like, man, my clothing is great, you're like, no, your clothing actually crap, and you're in the SCA, so you have a bunch of bad habits about what you think is good. That said, the only reason I know that is because I went to an avenue where they have authenticity criteria, and they looked at me and were like, you are super not good enough to get in here, man. Sorry. We're like sponsored by a museum. What are you doing? You're in Germany. I'm like, oh God, I came all the way across the sea because I thought I knew what I was doing. Please, can I come to your museum? They're like, we're going to put some new clothes on. You can't wear that. But it's cotton, dude. Oh, right. But again, that's something I nerd into. If I see somebody who shows up, because here's the thing about something like the SCA, which I think we as a culture got to remember, it's a game that anybody can play at any level of if you want to go so far that you're doing reenactment, that's great. But if you want to show up in some tennis shoes and some cutoff jeans with a sheet tucked over you and a rope belt, great. Thanks for coming. Welcome. Come have a good time. You want to come do medieval stuff with me? We don't have an authenticity inspection. Like, just remembering that people are here to have fun. People come to have fun, and that's. And bridging even further, I think that's especially true nowadays online. Because people are like, hey, I'm new to the area, I want to join the local group, and they get online. And the best thing that happens is when somebody reaches out to them personally and goes, oh my God, that's so cool, I'm in your area, you want to come hang out and talk, or maybe get coffee sometime, and just making that personal connection and meeting people, as opposed to going, oh, you can't do that because the SCA says you can't. Like, you gotta get invested. You gotta figure out who people are. Like, you're demoing to kids. They want to have fun. They don't care about the rules of your game. They want to see people hit each other and fall down and be silly. Know your audience.
Okay, speaking of knowing your audience, I want to segue into a question. You are an SCA performer, so you said you were a bard.
I am.
What got you into that?
Oh wow, we're all over.
I was just say that's a good question, only because when you think about the SCA and what most people know, it's like, oh, that's where they get in the armor and they fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that kind of brought you through the door. But yeah, I would like to know that. How did you get involved in the Bardic?
So, wow. All right. So, real quick, piggybacking off the Viking stuff, I already was into Viking mythology, and I met some guys early on who were really, somebody walked up to me and was like, hey man, dude, is that a Thor's hammer? Oh yeah, Thor's cool. I'm like, yeah. He's like, we do Viking stuff. You want to dress like a Viking? I was like, wow, yeah. And from there, I went down this rabbit hole of people in the SCA who were more and more passionate about Viking, until I eventually learned about reenactment and said, oh, it's something I want to do. Music, on the other hand, my grandma was an Irish folk singer who was friends with like the Clancy brothers and Tommy Makem, and from that era of like late 70s Fenian Irish singing. Very anti-English. Sorry, English. So I knew like these really cool Irish war songs about like walking with your pikes under the moon. And I went to an event, and there was a singing competition. That was literally it. They're like, hey, somebody came out and was like, town crier, there will be a singing bardic competition over here at 2. I'm like, I like singing. Let me come check this out. And so I went over and I just walked up and said, can I try? That was it. I just said, hey, I know a couple songs, they're like folk songs. Can I sing one? They're like, sure. What's your name? Kari. And I think I won, actually. or I did well enough. I sang well enough naturally, and it was a cool enough song that kind of fit the motif that people are like, wow, that was really great. We didn't know you could sing. Would you like to do that some more? I thought to myself, I mean, I like singing. I like playing music mundanely. And they said there's some bardic events, you can go and maybe learn some stuff. And I was kind of, again, like, I don't know. I just started doing this fighting thing. It was fun showing up and singing. And I had a huge advantage because I already sang in a semi-professional band outside of it. So then, actually, funny enough, I saw Zolf. And I was at an event, and it was a feast. And they said, we're going to have a storyteller come up. And out walks Mr. Zolf, who is doing this podcast. And she gets up and she's like, yes, this is I can't do a good Zolf impression, so bear with me. This is a story. And this great, that's the Laurelin voice, Zolf voice. I can't do it.
You have to say Madhyar. As soon as you say Madhyar, then you can get it.
I am a Maria, and let me tell you a story about my people. For there was much death and there was suffering in the land. It was a cold, dark day. It was midsummer in Mother Russia. The rains and snows came, and even the leaves.
Stop it! I'm Hungarian, not Russian, you goob. But anyway,
I don't know. Like I said, I don't do a good Zolf. And long story short,
that started out. The impression started out a little. It's a me, Mario. And
Mario. All right. Anyway.
So this story is like brutal about like this lady, and I don't know, it's like Transylvania, and she dies horribly, and everyone has a like, I don't know, Baba Yaga was there, and she was like, there was like the night of the day and the night of the dawn, and they're the nights of the night, and they're killing people, and then everyone dies tragically. I was like, oh, that was sweet. And so I thought that was really cool. And then I started paying a little more attention to what kind of things people were doing, and I saw people showing up and playing harp at feasts and in the background, people teaching classes about stories. I started seeing some events that were around that were not fighting events, that were just art. There was one in the Mid-Realm here called RUM, the Royal University of the Mid-Realm. And I went and I took some classes on bardic performance, and I thought, this is really neat. Let me give this a shot. And I did a couple of other small things. If somebody said, hey, we're looking for somebody to perform at feast. And then I got to tell you, I'm a ringer here. I'm Zolf's apprentice now. I have my little green belt. Zolf, again, one day, because she's from Cleveland, where I am, she walks up to me one day and says, hey, Kari, got this gig for you. You want it? Like, well, what are you thinking? She's like, it's at Penzic. It's at like the Royal Muckety Muck party, and you're gonna sing for everybody. I'm like, she's yeah, you're gonna do it. Okay. And so Zolf was like a booking agent for me. She would just get me gigs. And then suddenly I'm like, you're gonna play at the house VDK party. I'm like, oh, okay. And I show up and I would do that. And then next thing I know, I'd wander an event and guys like, oh, it's the Viking rock star. I'm like, oh, okay. And suddenly I just kept having these performances and these opportunities, and then it snowballed. By the time a couple of people would see me and like hearing me play, and I got invested enough into the music and the art and the stories that I started like really getting into the YouTube channels of like who other performers were and what their songs were, and getting out of like the Irish folk singing and learning these songs that people had written in the society. And it was great. And I just started falling in love. And my friend Alaric, he gave me this CD of all these different songs that people had recorded that, were live performances. And I'm like, some of these are just gorgeous. And I think the moment that finally solidified me wanting to do this was a friend came up and said, hey, can you learn this one song? It's called The Peasant Knight. written by Mistress Rosalind Jahan of Atlanta, I believe. And I said, okay. And he sent me a copy of it. And I listened to it. I'm like, wow, this is a really powerful song about this kid he's a nobody. He's a peasant. And he dreams of being a knight. And he, ends up eventually serving this knight. And the knight is almost killed in battle. And the peasants, no, he's not a squire, he's nobody. He's just like a servant. Pulls out a knife and is like defending the knight. In the end, the knight, it survives, but the peasant boy is just barely hanging on. He's dying, and the king is like, "Oh my God, Sir Knight, what happened?" He's like, "This peasant saved me. I would have him knighted." And the king knights the kid, and then he dies. And it was so powerful, and the song was really well written. And so I learned it, and I went to an event again. I think it was actually a Penzic, and that same friend would ask me, he said, "Did you learn the song?" I said, "Well, yeah." He's like, "Can you sing it for us?" And I sang it, and it was right after a day of fighting, and everyone's exhausted. And I've learned later that if you really want to get something emotional out of fighters, wait till they just finish fighting. And I sang it right after that, and there's like grown men, just tears pouring down their faces because of how much love and energy they've put into this idea of knighthood and all this magical thing that they've created, this effort, this striving, the brutality they've just put their bodies through, the exhaustion and the effort, these real deeds. And then hearing this story about being a nobody and becoming a knight. And that was it. And I was like, this is great. Oh my God, I didn't know I could affect people's lives. And then I realized that's one of those things that makes people in the SCA feel inspired. And I thought, well, if I can give that to people, then I guess it's a thing worth doing. And so I kept it up.
And you're incredible. Thank you. I do want to give a shout out if you're interested to our audience in some of those. There's YouTube channel that's really a great resource for people who are interested in the bardic arts. So if you go to YouTube and type in Shava Sue, Shavasue, that's Mistress Elishava's, Viscountess Elishava's YouTube channel, and she just wanders around with her camcorder all over the known world and records bards. And you can actually catch Kari's performance at the Green Dragon Tavern at Gulf Wars, where he performed the Peasant Knight, one of the first times many people heard that song from you.
Man, that was wild.
That was when you were a royal bard. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Royal bard. Yeah, I was Calix royal bard in the mid realm. And we went down to Louisiana, and they have this whole there were two different places for bardic music there. One of them was in this camp called Early Period Life, and it was this smoky stone hall that they had built, and you could come in and tell dark stories and singing songs about Boudica, right? Really powerful in there. And then the other was this Green Dragon, which was this community center, this tavern. And I actually had to go in and audition for that. They were not trying to just let people in. And it was actually a tough audition. It was a tough audition. I almost didn't get in. But they were like, you're a kingdom bard. We'll give you a shot. You can come to our open mic. So I got in. I did my audition. They said, well, we'll let you have, a 3-song slot. We have an open mic evening. And I went in. I did the Peasant Knight, and I was shocked. Everyone in the room was singing along. People were openly weeping. I met some of the best friends I've had in the SCA, or friends out from the East. This guy walks up, and he's just openly weeping. He goes, hey, hey, I'm the Prince of the East. That song really moved me, and gives me this coin. And from then on, anytime I've been in the East Kingdom, his name's Brennan. He and his wife Keelan have been incredibly kind to me and always welcome me to stuff. And now I go around places, and they're like, "Oh, you're that bard guy," which is interesting how renown grows, and I think it came from giving people something that made them feel real, feel a feeling. So in return, it gave me this opportunity to be able to travel around the SCA and have people be really nice to me and give me opportunities to meet and experience things I might not have otherwise. So it's been quite a gift that's been returned to me tenfold.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up. We never really came up with like a wrap-up question. Lucas, did you come up with one when we were planning this out, or did you have another question for Kari?
Well, I mean, I think we skirted it, but Kari, is there any kind of growth point for the SCA? Anything that you could see that we could do better, that we're do really good, but I mean, just anything you could see as a growing area for us. Nothing to complain about, certainly, but things that we could just grow from.
So the SCA is such a big and broad group, which is the magic of its appeal, right? And the SCA is in a weird place. It needed to be such a broad group to catch such a wide audience in the day of zines, and but now with the internet, there's niche groups all over. I mean, that's honestly how Viking Reenactment ended up really clicking for me, is you could connect with people in Germany or Texas. And so now you have all these like niche groups showing up. But in a way, I think personally, the SCA would do well to have relationships with some of these other games that are out here. People like doing other platforms, and I can't tell you how many folks I've met who've moved over from like Dagger here or Belagarth or Amtgard, or people from the SA who join groups like the Armored Combat League or Battle of Nations or Jomsborg, and I think just being more interconnected with the greater medieval world, or like the medieval fairs. Just being active in the medieval community instead of being so insular into themselves. As far as other growth points, I think the SCA is rapidly attempting to keep up with the cultural changes in the interest in steel swords. I know that the SCA is doing some experimental armored steel fighting, like groups like Battle of Nations, BOTN, is because it's popular and people like it, and they want to not lose people who are suddenly interested in fighting steel. So I think the SCA is probably doing the right things. I mean, it's a volunteer organization. It's not like we have a bunch of money to throw at awesome recruitment videos. But when people do make stuff like that, I think videos are great. These have been great. Personally, I think, when you guys reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do this, I thought this was super cool. Especially since COVID, I've been really excited. Branos and some of his Duke Branos has been doing this thing called Coach's Corner, which has been amazing. Getting to listen to these amazing top tier world class SCA fighters talking about how they fight and why they fight. This guy whose name I'm spacing right now ran this thing called 5 Ways to Become a Better Fighter, and reached out to again a bunch of top tier fighters talking about how to improve their game. And so being able to keep that kind of engagement without being able to be in front of people has been great with material like this. And whoever's watching, I hope you've enjoyed my talk and got something out of it. So that's really it. I mean, I'd like to see the SCA connect more with the rest of the medieval world games that are out there. And I'd like to continue to see us growing and evolving with the changing times, which I think the SCA is doing a pretty good job at. And I like the online engagement with things like this. I think this was great, and I really commend both of you for doing it. So you are doing the thing that I would recommend someone do.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kari, for coming on. Again, this is Simply SCAdian, no title required, a show where we're talking to just regular folks in the SCA. Lucas, we're gonna be back. We're gonna be back in 2 weeks. So February 4th, we're going to be doing this show every 2 weeks for the foreseeable future. And tell us about our next guest.
Our next guest is from Setmore Swamp here in East Kingdom, Jersey. Damiana is the name she plays under, but she's been just a wonderful friend of mine. And one of the people who got me involved in it named Taryn. I'm a high school English teacher. She's a high school English teacher. She knows she's a theater person. I'm a theater person. So we connected on that. We actually walked into the New Jersey Renaissance Kingdom the first day together. And she was already playing the game at that point, and was one of the people that kind of helped me through the door. But again, as long as she's been involved, she's kind of been happy where she's at. And I think you're going to get a lot out of hearing her take on it. Big Penzic person, big Penzic personality down in the bog. Lots of people know her. Raven Spittler, for those of you that know what that is, that is my camp too now. But
Wait, no, you can't just say Raven. You got to tell everybody what Raven Spittle is.
Raven Spittle is the. I'm going to say it this way. I don't want to make anybody angry, but I'm pretty sure it was the first pirate ship. That was there. Okay. Because it's gone through 3 incarnations, and then after they had a pirate ship up on the Serengeti for a long time, and then they moved down to the bog, pirate ships started showing up everywhere. But listen, I'll let them fight that battle.
So
But
Raven Spittle pirate ship encampment.
pirate ship encampment down lakeside there, and I just one of the most articulate people that I know. So I think you're going to get a lot out of that.
I can't wait to meet her. Yeah. And for those of you who's curious on Facebook, because you're obviously watching right now, don't forget to like our page. And we're going to be putting out a Google form tomorrow if I can. Depends on work. I'm in the middle of a big code project. So that you can recommend people to be guests on the show. The only criteria is they're not a peer. They have never been a peer and then turned it back in. Thank you, F and Walt. And not a court baron or baroness, nothing, no titles. Lord, lady, sergeant, captain, those kind of things. Honorable lords and ladies are totally welcome. Thank you for tuning in to our very first episode, and we will see all of you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.